What's up, everybody? I'm your host Joseph, and I know it's been a while since I made a video, but I wanted to say I'm back again in full effect, just bringing you something a little special today. So I wanted to talk about the hottest Disney Plus series right now, which is Secret Invasion, and what it's based on. So Secret Invasion is loosely based off of the graphic novel of the same name, Secret Invasion, written by Brian Michael Bendis and drawn by Lino Yu. The biggest thing about the Secret Invasion Disney Plus series is involved the alien race of people called the Skrull. Now, some of you all may be familiar with Skrulls if you've seen Captain Marvel, and if you've seen Miss Marvel. There was a bonus scene after that that kind of showing you some of the Skrulls. So the Skrulls are a shape-shifting alien race that are kind of bent on world domination. They have always been in war with another alien race called the Kree. And the Kree you've probably heard of if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy or Miss Marvel as well. So they also are like two different factions. So let me give you a quick breakdown of each group. So the Skrulls are these green-skinned, shape-shifting aliens. So they have like pointy ears and like this stubble kind of chin, but they can shapeshift into anyone they see, as well as copy their power set. So for example, if a Skrull shapeshift into like Wolverine, he can actually have the same healing abilities, produce the claws, and everything the same. So they can copy anyone down to their DNA. So anything that they can do, the Skrulls can do as well. The Kree are these blue-skinned, typically, aliens, and they kind of like are really strong, and they work on this big collective. They kind of have this thing called the Supreme Being, which kind of connects all their minds. They can always operate as independents or as a hive mind. And they've always been at war for eons. So what's happening in the series is that the Skrulls are trying to take over the world. So they've been implanting themselves into like positions of power, and it's kind of really hard right now to figure out who's a Skrull and who's not. So who do we really trust? And if someone is a Skrull, how long have they been a Skrull? Like how long has the person been captured? So say if the president of the United States went on vacation to Camp David, like you can see the president enter the plane, and say if the Skrulls hijack the plane, when they get off, it'll be a Skrull, and like that person has been imitating the president for that long. They're trying to find out what's really going on. So I want to give you a little history and kind of like break down my introduction into Skrulls, because I started a little early, and kind of like what got me on this whole Secret Invasion thing way before the series or the graphic novel ever came out. Way back in the late 1990s, there was a series that came out. It was the Uncanny X-Men, and that was my first big like introduction into Skrulls. Like the Skrulls first popped off in like Fantastic Four and Thor. They would have been in a lot of other books, but like for me, seeing them in the X-Men was the big thing. So as I mentioned before, I never really liked when comic book characters go into space. That was just not my thing, like the whole space mission stuff. But there was an issue of the Uncanny X-Men where the groups had gone into space and they was fighting some things with the Skrulls, and they came back home and they were not sure if anyone had been infiltrated or not, because they got separated, they got into these fights, and they couldn't decide who to trust. So what happened was that Wolverine, out of all people, was killed. So there was this cover of Uncanny X-Men 375. It was like a deluxe issue, and I remember all the previews for it. It was like the anatomy of someone. That was like the cover. So it was Professor X over this body performing like an anatomy. And I was like, who is this? Who has been killed? They were saying some famous person was dead. And then when they finally revealed the issue, it was Wolverine. So Professor X is operating over Wolverine's body. It's like, that's not possible. With his healing factor, there's no way Wolverine can be dead. So Professor X, before he kind of got into it, he gathered everybody, all his X-Men, into the operating room. And they kind of like revealed that it was Wolverine. They were like, how is this possible? Wolverine was on the mission with us. There's no way he could have died. And so Professor X starts to accuse people. Out of all people, he accused Cyclops. He was like, you did this. And Cyclops lashes out like, no, there's no way. Like, well, I was just defending myself. And so Professor X goes to say that it was Jean controlling Cyclops, and all the X-Men just start fighting. Like they're going against each other, not sure what's happening. This playthrough is ended with a lot of people dying, and like everyone holding their loved ones and trying to see what was going on. And in reality, come to find out that Professor X, Jean, and I think one other person, Storm maybe, had all worked together to kind of put this image in everyone's head to kind of see if anybody else was a Skrull. And come to find out, none of them worked. But when they tested Wolverine with this solution, into his body, he reverted back to being a Skrull. And they were like, he's infiltrated the X-Men. They were like, well, how long has he been here? And so it was like 3 issues they kind of discovering, like how long have they infiltrated the X-Men and who was real and who was not. So that kind of led, to me, that was like the premise and the lead up to Secret Invasion. Because that was the first time we had some characters who had been with the X-Men for years who we didn't know were Skrulls. So that leads once again to the graphic novel, Secret Invasion. Check it out. This is the hard copy edition. It collects Secret Invasion issues 1 through 8. And then it has also, what I love about this version of the book, it also has the screen write-up. So like the write-up that Brian Michael Bendis did, like his script for the book itself, as well as some like various covers and all little behind the scenes details. So it was a really good hard copy purchase, and I'm really glad I got that one. So I want to break down how like Secret Invasion starts. So there's a couple of groups of X-Men. Like this is right after Marvel Civil War with Captain America and Iron Man kind of going at it. And after that ended, Captain America was shot and killed by the Winter Soldier. And this is the time they didn't know who the Winter Soldier was. It was Bucky. But he was dead, and so everyone's kind of like, you know, in this, they're totally distraught. S.H.I.E.L.D. has kind of like been to some degree disbanded. They're still around, but Nick Fury's gone. And like all the people are kind of like you know, mad and upset that Cap is gone. Like this wouldn't have happened if Nick was here. And everybody's kind of messed up, and Maria Hill is like the temporary person in charge. But also after Civil War, she's still a second in command. She doesn't run S.H.I.E.L.D. Tony Stark is the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like Iron Man, he is now in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. So think about this for a second. He has control of all the satellites, all the weaponry, everything he's ever needed, and he can execute anything he wants. So it goes to like people complaining, still kind of worried about Cap, and people like all the Avengers kind of talking. Certain members of the Avengers are still considered like national terrorists. So there's a sect of Avengers that are kind of like in hiding. So they don't want to be found out or discovered because they'll be put in arrest because of like their involvement in Civil War. So the series goes on to say that, you know, there are certain people who have been like been honest with who they are. The series opens up with Dum Dum Dugan, which is like Nick Fury's like right-hand man. If you saw the original Captain America, the first Avenger, he is in that. So he's kind of pissed because they're all at a bar. He's kind of pissed because everyone's blaming Nick, and he just walks out like, you don't understand. I know Nick wouldn't do this. He didn't abandon us. He's mad. After the bar incident, it kicks off with Dum Dum Dugan going back to his hotel and kind of just like sulk and kind of calm down. And he runs into Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. For those of you who don't know that character, she was in Black Widow at the end. She was also in Wakanda Forever. And you may also know her as Elaine from Seinfeld. So that was like Nick Fury's love interest for a while, and they kind of hooked up. He was like, I'm glad to see you. I'm pretty sure you would be with Nick. She was like, no, I haven't seen him. And she's like, do you know what he is? And he's like, I have no clue. I thought you would know. He was like, I'm really sorry about that. I wish you really had answers for it. And she pops claws, and he's looking like, what? And she kills Dum Dum Dugan. And then it kind of fades back, and you see that it's revealed that Valentina is actually a Skrull. And she takes on Dum Dum Dugan's identity, and it kind of moves forward from there. And it goes into like the Avengers now like monitoring like space and everything else with their division called SWORD, which is also there in the Captain Marvel movie. It's what Nick Fury has been hiding, as you've seen from the Secret Invasion episode 1 if you've watched it already. So it kicks off like now we're into space and seeing what's going on, monitoring the planet. SWORD gets this alert. There's a ship that's coming in hot to Earth. And they're like, what's going on? We don't know what this ship is doing. It bypasses everything, and they try to track it. And when they try, their space station is blown up. And there's only a few survivors. And then the people in Earth are reporting like, hey, we got to stop this. We can't catch it. And they contact Iron Man, like, stop this ship. Like, where's it going? It's going to the Savage Land. For those of you who don't know, the Savage Land is a small area in Antarctica who's kind of been preserved in the prehistoric time period. Like they have dinosaurs there. They've been in the X-Men books for years. They've been on cartoons. And it's like these, it's a prehistoric island basically stuck in that time period. So that's where Devil Dinosaur is from, for those of you who watch movies on Devil Dinosaur or read the book. So the ship crash lands, and Tony Stark sends in his Avengers, and then there's a group called the Secret Avengers, and they go try to infiltrate the ship. both groups meet up and kind of like looking at each other like, you know, you're not supposed to be here, and neither are you. You need to chill out, and they kind of get into a battle real quick. And Luke Cage is kind of like, look, I'm gonna open this ship up. I'm gonna see who's inside. And they're like, well, we don't know if it's some Skrulls. We don't know if it's good guys, bad guys. We don't know. Luke's like, whatever. So as they're fighting, Luke opens it up, and what comes out is where it's like the big shocking moment. It is a group of Avengers, like old school, like Luke with the big fro, Spider-Man with the wings on him. It's like all like old school first time appearance Avengers. And they're like, wait a minute, what's going on? And Wolverine's like, this is not me, I'm me. And so it becomes a battle now. Who's a Skrull? Who is an Avenger? And going from like left to right, we got White Queen, Spider-Man, Luke Cage, Beast, Thor, Wonder Man, Invisible Woman, Jean Grey, Iron Man, The Vision, Scarlet Witch, Jessica Jones, Mockingbird, Captain America, Miss Marvel, and Wolverine. So any one of them could be a Skrull, and they're all trying to figure out who's who. And they get into this big battle and it just ensues from there. And it goes to reveal that throughout history, the Skrulls have been implanting people within to like superhero groups, politics, big business for years, and it's now about world domination, world takeover. And it just goes and jumps and shows how the Skrulls are taking over different big name people in different business and enacting their plan now, because they send out this virus that's revealing some people to be Skrulls or not. And one of the best things is that there are sleeper agent Skrulls. These are people who had no idea they were Skrulls and they thought they were the original copies. One of the better scenes in the first issue that I really enjoy is when there's a tour going on in the Fantastic Four Baxter building. And one of the people on the tour decides to leave off and he turns into the Invisible Woman. So he's able to bypass all the security, get through everything, and he sets off this device into the negative zone or the microverse that starts to destroy and consume the Baxter building. So it's sucking it in and sucking into the microverse. And what's happening is that Reed is getting an alert because like Tony's like, hey, we need some help. I don't know how to tell who's a Skrull and who's not. And he's like, I think I got it figured out. And so this person goes and he's like, oh, you do? He's like, I'm sorry, you'll never get to share that information. And this is it. He hits them with this ray and totally like deconstructs Mr. Fantastic. Forces him into this like almost liquid goo type of form. Look at this visual. I mean, come on, how horrifying does that look? Like you cannot get any better than that. I won't give the rest of the book away, but the main thing is trying to figure out who's a Skrull and who's not. So even in the series, like is Nick Fury a Skrull? We don't know. We've already seen one person, for those of you who watched episode 1, who is a Skrull. I won't give anything away and I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't seen it yet. But episode 2 does drop tomorrow. Make sure you watch that one to find out who's gonna be a Skrull and who's not. I really got a feeling that Nick Fury is a Skrull. He doesn't seem like the regular Nick Fury, because for one thing, for me, they don't really tell you, like he doesn't wear his eye patch anymore. Like why does he not wear that? Like that's been a thing forever. Some theories have been that since he, you know, went to space that he decided not to use it anymore, but it just seems a little shady to me. So one last thing I want to mention about the Secret Invasion graphic novel as well as in the comic books, at the very end they had these ads, and they were really cool because it was called embracethechange.org. The website does not work anymore, so don't even try to search it up. You can, but it doesn't function. And there were all these advertisements about like humans and Skrulls. And just look at these pictures. They are beautifully drawn or photoshopped, but it's crazy. And it was like one in each issue. And I really like this campaign because you used to be able to go to the website and try to figure out who was a Skrull and who's not, put in information, talk about it. It was almost like a little chat room and underground, and it made it seem like you were a Skrull as well. So that's been my 2 cents. I hope you enjoyed my discussion about Secret Invasion and the origins of the Disney Plus show. Make sure to continue watching that and come talk to me when it's all over. I would love to have a discussion or a chat about what's going on, who was a Skrull, how did you like the series. This has been one of Marvel's top rated series since the other Disney Plus shows have dropped. All right, that's all for me, and I will catch you next time. If you like this video, consider to smash that like button. Consider subscribing as well, and know when new content drops just like this. And I will catch you next time. Peace. Okay, the camera's off. Okay, so good. Yeah, I know you've been in hiding. We didn't. want to share anything out. All right. I know he's been gone, so we've taken over. Wait, the camera's still on? What? Hold on.